He craves you in silence, but pride keeps him quiet. You may think his distance means he doesn't care, but silence is rarely that simple. Silence is a battlefield where emotion and ego collide. He wants to reach out, but his pride builds a wall. He wants to speak, but the words choke behind the fear of losing control. Men are taught that needing someone is weakness. They're told to be unshakable, untouchable, and unbothered, but inside the truth burns like fire. He replays the moments, the way you looked at him, the calm in your tone when you stopped explaining yourself, the strength in your silence when you chose distance over drama. That silence unsettles him because it's power disguised as peace. You see, when a woman walks away not out of anger but out of self-respect, something shifts. He realizes you no longer orbit around his attention, and that absence becomes louder than any confrontation. He begins to feel the weight of your absence like gravity returning after a long float in space. Every moment you stay silent, you teach him a lesson that words never could, that love is not submission, that care is not slavery, that affection without reciprocation is erosion of the soul. But understand this, his craving is not about you fixing him, it's about him realizing what he broke. When he sees you moving forward, calm, focused, grounded in your own life, he feels the storm within himself. Pride screams, don't reach out, but longing whispers, you lost something real. That war inside him is not your responsibility to resolve, because the moment you try to heal him, you abandon yourself, and the power you gained through silence dissolves. Real strength is not in chasing validation, it's in holding your ground even when you know you're missed. He might watch your stories, replay your photos, or pretend he doesn't care, but behind that stillness, pride is cracking, and that crack is where growth begins. He's learning that silence doesn't mean victory, it means facing himself. When you go silent, you create a vacuum that forces truth to surface. If he was using your attention to feed his ego, the silence starves him. If he truly valued you, the silence humbles him. That's why your distance is more powerful than any argument, because arguments feed the fire, but silence lets him burn in his own reflection. Don't mistake his pride for peace. A man can look calm on the outside while chaos devours him within. Pride keeps him from reaching out, but craving keeps him from moving on, and somewhere between those two extremes he starts to change. He remembers your composure, your ability to not react, the way you didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't demand closure. That maturity haunts him because it exposes his emotional immaturity. You didn't punish him, you educated him through your absence. And that is what pride can't handle. The realization that he lost someone who mastered self-control. Understand this, your silence isn't about manipulation, it's about elevation. You've chosen dignity over desperation. And when a woman chooses herself, she stops orbiting around chaos and starts glowing with purpose. That glow draws everything good toward her and repels everything weak. He craves you because your energy became scarce. He craves you because your peace became priceless. He craves you because for the first time he sees the difference between attention and value. But let him crave. Let him feel the weight of what he took for granted. Don't break your silence to soothe his guilt. Don't reopen a chapter that was meant to close. If he's meant to return, he'll do it through humility, not impulse. He'll come back with understanding, not excuses. Your silence is not punishment, it's truth. It's the truth that says, Em and I am enough, even without your validation. And once a person reaches that point, they stop being haunted by who left and start being defined by who they've become. He craves you in silence, but pride keeps him quiet. And that's where your real power lies. Not in being needed, but in being remembered. Not in chasing, but in walking away with your standards intact. Because when a man's pride finally breaks, it's not your words he'll remember, it's your absence. It's the way you stayed calm when everything in him expected chaos. It's the way you didn't fight to prove your worth, because you already knew it. So let him crave, let him learn, let him face himself in the silence he created, because silence is not emptiness, it's consequence. And sometimes the loudest lesson is taught without saying a single word. You think he doesn't care because he doesn't speak, But silence is not the absence of feeling, it's the weight of it. Some people don't express desire through words, they bury it beneath restraint, fear, or pride. When a person truly feels deeply, they often become quiet, not because they're detached, but because they're overwhelmed. Silence becomes the language of intensity that words can't hold. There's a difference between disinterest and suppression. Disinterest is cold, detached, hollow. Suppression is alive, tense, full of energy waiting for release. The one who doesn't care looks away easily. The one who does looks away too long because he's afraid of being seen. Desire in silence is not passive, it's controlled chaos. It's someone fighting a war inside their own chest, torn between longing and self-protection. They want to reach out, to speak, to connect, but they also want to appear strong, unaffected, and in control. That's the irony of human emotion. The more someone wants to appear untouched, the more deeply they're usually affected. You see, silence can be louder than speech. It carries tension, meaning, and emotion in ways that words often dilute. When someone goes quiet, pay attention to how they're silent. Is it cold and dismissive, or heavy, full of unspoken things? The difference tells you everything. The silent kind of desire is painful because it's unfinished. It's a story paused mid-sentence. They replay moments in their mind, every look, every touch, every word you said. They analyze the tone of your voice, the way you smiled, the calm in your silence after they pulled away. That quiet burns. It's the echo of connection they can't fully let go of. Sometimes people go silent not because they've moved on, but because they're trying to control something they can't contain. They tell themselves, "I'll stay strong. I won't reach out." But strength doesn't mean denial. It means facing what you feel without letting it consume you. Yet too often silence becomes a mask, a way to protect the ego while the heart still aches. Silence hides desire because vulnerability feels dangerous. To admit desire is to surrender control, and control is the last thing pride wants to lose. So they act indifferent, they appear composed, they pretend nothing moves them. But beneath that still surface the current runs wild, and sometimes that silence is their only defense against the truth. They care more than they can handle. They crave closeness but fear rejection. They want to reach for you but fear losing their sense of power, so they choose the illusion of strength over the reality of connection. It's tragic, but it's human. The one who truly doesn't care sleeps peacefully. The one who desires in silence lies awake, haunted by what if, haunted by memories that replay when the world goes quiet. The silence that once felt safe becomes suffocating, because when desire is buried, it doesn't die. It transforms into longing, regret, and reflection. If you've ever been on the receiving end of that silence, don't confuse it with indifference. Understand that people process emotions differently. Some shout their feelings, others drown in them quietly. The loudest heartbreaks are often carried by those who never say a word. And if you are the one holding your desire in silence, ask yourself what that silence costs you. Pride may protect your image, but it also isolates your soul. Desire unspoken becomes a burden that eats away at you slowly. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to speak, not to win someone back, but to release yourself from the prison of your own restraint. Because silence can preserve dignity, but it can also steal peace. There's strength in knowing when to stay quiet, but there's also strength in knowing when silence becomes self-sabotage. Desire is not weakness. To feel deeply is not a flaw. The strongest people are not the ones who stay silent forever. They're the ones who can face their truth without shame. So yes, silence often hides desire, not indifference. But there's a moment when silence stops being strength and starts becoming fear. Don't let fear disguise itself as control. Don't let pride talk you out of honesty. Sometimes the most powerful expression of strength is not in withholding emotion, but in letting it be seen. Because desire deserves acknowledgement, and even if love can't always be returned, truth should never be buried beneath pride. In the end, silence speaks, but words heal, and no matter how strong you think you are, there's no power greater than the courage to express what your heart has been whispering all along. It's not that they don't feel, it's that they've been taught feeling is dangerous. From a young age, men learn to equate strength with silence, dominance with control, and vulnerability with weakness. So they build walls instead of bridges, fortresses instead of connections. Every brick in that wall is pride, crafted carefully to protect the softest parts of them that no one is allowed to see. When a man feels something deeply, love, loss, regret, his first instinct isn't to express it, it's to hide it, because in his world, exposure equals risk. To admit pain is to lose power. To show care is to surrender control, and control to him is survival. So he wraps himself in pride like armor, convincing himself that detachment is strength and emotion is surrender. But pride is a poor shield. It doesn't protect, it isolates. It keeps the heart safe, yes, but it also keeps it starving. The man who hides behind pride becomes untouchable to others, but also unreachable to himself. He walks through life with a calm face and a storm inside, pretending indifference while craving connection. Pride tells him, don't text her first. Don't admit you miss her. And don't let her know she still matters. And he listens not because he doesn't care, but because caring feels like exposure. Pride convinces him that silence equals control. Yet in truth, silence is just another form of fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being seen without the mask. There's tragedy in that. Because beneath every proud man is a boy who once cared too much and got hurt for it. The boy learned that emotion leads to pain, and pain means weakness. So he learned to hide, to harden, to armor up. Pride became his protection against the world, and vulnerability became his enemy. But what no one told him is that vulnerability isn't defeat, it's strength in its purest form. It's the courage to show truth without guarantee of acceptance. It's standing without armor and saying, "This is who I am." Pride may protect your ego, but vulnerability protects your humanity. When men wear pride too long, they forget what it feels like to connect. They start confusing distance with dignity. They call indifference and self-control. But inside, they ache for someone who sees past their armor, someone who understands that beneath the silence, there's a heart that still feels everything. He'll sit in silence, replaying moments he'll never admit mattered. He'll scroll through her pictures, pretending he's unmoved. He'll hear her laugh in a crowded place and feel something twist inside. But pride won't let him move. It whispers, "Stay composed." It warns, "Don't let her think she's won." But in that moment, he's not winning anything. He's just losing quietly. Pride promises safety but delivers emptiness. It makes a man look strong but feel hollow. It's an armor that grows heavier the longer he wears it, until it no longer protects him. It suffocates him. He starts mistaking loneliness for peace, silence for strength. The truth is, every man who hides behind pride eventually faces a choice. Keep the armor and stay safe, or remove it and finally breathe. Pride can build empires, but it can't build connection. It can win battles, but it always loses love. When vulnerability feels like defeat, pride becomes the weapon. But love isn't a war, it's a surrender. The kind that doesn't weaken you, but frees you. Because there's power in being real. There's strength in saying I was wrong. There's honor in saying I care. And there's healing in admitting, "Son, I'm scared." The greatest men are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who can stand up after falling and still keep their hearts open. They understand that the armor that once kept them safe can also keep them stuck. True confidence is not in hiding emotion, it's in mastering it. Pride will tell you that silence keeps your dignity, but dignity doesn't come from suppression, it comes from truth. The man who can look at his mistakes, admit them, and face them head on has more power than the one who hides behind his ego. So if you find yourself holding back out of pride, remember, armor may protect you from pain, but it also keeps love from reaching you. You can't be fully known if you're always covered. You can't be deeply loved if you're always guarded. Letting your guard down doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've evolved. It means you've chosen growth over image, courage over comfort. Pride might keep you standing, but vulnerability teaches you how to live. And one day when the weight of that armor becomes too much to carry, you'll realize strength was never in pretending you don't feel. It was in the moment you finally did. Because pride is loud, but truth is louder. And the day a man removes his armor, The world finally gets to see not just his power, but his heart. When you pull away, he confronts his emptiness, not you. That's the truth most people miss. When you finally step back, when you stop reaching, explaining, or overgiving, you're not punishing him, you're revealing him. High cup. And all he was doing was drinking from it. You began to choose peace over chaos, self-worth over begging, clarity over confusion, and when you pulled away, he was forced to look into the void that your energy had been covering. That void isn't about you, it's about him. The discomfort he feels in your absence isn't heartbreak, it's exposure, it's the sudden awareness that without your attention, without your energy feeding his sense of importance, he has to face what's left. And often it's nothing but silence. You see, some people mistake attention for love. They think being wanted equals being whole. They use others to escape their own loneliness, and when that source of validation disappears, they confuse that emptiness with loss. But it's not loss, it's truth. It's the truth that says, I never felt complete, I only felt distracted. When you pull away, he confronts the part of himself that he's been trying to ignore, the part that's insecure, the part that doubts his worth, the part that only felt alive when someone else was affirming him. That's not love, that's dependence. And your silence, your distance, your refusal to keep feeding that dependence, that's what wakes him up. But understand this, he might not wake up immediately. At first he'll resist. Pride will tell him she's just playing games. Ego will whisper, I don't need her. So he'll try to fill that void with distractions, new people, new conversations, new habits, but it never works for long because nothing replaces genuine energy. Nothing replaces connection that was real. And that's when the realization hits. He misses not just you, he misses how he felt when he was around you. The calm, the warmth, the validation, the reflection of his better self that your presence provided. But that was never his to own, it was always yours to give. And when you stopped giving, he had to face who he was without it. That's the power of pulling away. It's not manipulation, it's revelation. It exposes the truth. When you were chasing him, he could hide behind your effort. When you were explaining, he could hide behind your words. When you were always available, he could pretend he was enough. But when you stopped, the mirror shattered, and suddenly he's alone. Not because you abandoned him. And he'll realize that the emptiness he feels isn't about losing control. It's about losing something pure. But that realization is not your responsibility to wait for. Your job is not to wait until he matures enough to value you. Your job is to keep growing, to keep walking, to keep choosing peace over validation. Because when you pull away, it's not about teaching him a lesson. It's about learning your own. The lesson that says, I am not responsible for anyone's healing but my own. The lesson that says, Isa, my energy is sacred and my peace is my power. The lesson that says, if someone can only appreciate me in my absence, they never truly saw me in my presence. He will confront his emptiness, not because you forced him to, but because you finally stopped cushioning him from it. And that emptiness will echo until he learns that no amount of external validation can fill the void of internal neglect. That's why pulling away isn't weakness. It's strength. It's the kind of strength that doesn't scream or beg or demand closure. It simply moves on, knowing that silence speaks louder than any explanation ever could. He will remember your calm. He will remember that when everything turned to noise, you became still. He will remember that when he expected anger, you gave peace. And that peace will haunt him far longer than any argument ever could. So when you pull away, don't look back. Don't question your choice. Don't wonder if he finally understands, because your silence already said everything. And if he's truly meant to grow, that silence will become his teacher, because in the end, your withdrawal is not punishment, it's reflection. And what he sees in that reflection is not the loss of you, it's the revelation of himself. Emotional distance becomes the mirror that reveals his truth. It's in the space you create, not in your words, not in your explanations, where the reality of what he feels finally surfaces. As long as you're close, available, and emotionally present, he can hide behind your warmth. He can borrow your light to avoid facing his own shadows. But when you step back, when you stop filling the silence, something happens. He's forced to look into the mirror your distance creates, and for the first time, he sees himself clearly. That's the power of space. It exposes. It separates illusion from intention, comfort from care, attraction from commitment. When you stop doing the emotional work for both of you, he's left with a question he can no longer avoid. What do I actually feel when she's not here? If his connection to you was genuine, that space awakens gratitude and longing. But if it was built on convenience, validation, or ego, that space will reveal hollowness. Because emotional distance is truth serum. It strips away distraction, forcing both people to see what's real beneath the noise. Most men aren't afraid of love, they're afraid of being seen. Because being seen means vulnerability, and vulnerability threatens control. So they perform strength, act detached, pretend they're unaffected. But when you pull back, the performance ends. There's no audience left to impress, no validation left to absorb. And in that quiet, the truth emerges. If his affection was real, the distance will make him reflect. If it wasn't, it will make him run. Either way, you get your answer without asking a single question. That's what emotional distance does. It reveals character without confrontation. You see, closeness can disguise imbalance. When you care deeply, you often carry the emotional load for both people. You initiate, you check in, you soothe, you understand. That effort can create an illusion of connection, but it's often one-sided. When you stop doing it, when you stop rescuing the energy, the silence becomes a test. Does he step forward or does he disappear? If he steps forward, it's not out of obligation, it's out of truth. He's realized your presence mattered more than his pride. But if he disappears, understand that he's only showing you what was already there. Emptiness dressed as confidence. Emotional distance doesn't create change, it reveals it. It doesn't force a person to love you, it shows you whether they ever did. Because genuine connection doesn't vanish in silence, it deepens in it. Love seeks to understand, ego seeks to win. When you stop engaging, the ego runs out of fuel. And that's when you see who's left standing, the man or the mask. For many men, emotional distance is terrifying, not because they lose you, but because they lose the distraction you provided. You kept them from confronting their own restlessness, insecurity, and lack of self-awareness. Your attention was a mirror they could control. But when you take that mirror away, they must look at themselves through their own eyes, and that's far more confronting. He'll feel that absence in subtle ways, the quiet when there used to be conversation, the empty phone when there used to be constant connection, the calmness in you that no longer bends to his chaos. That calmness is powerful. It communicates what words never could, that your peace is no longer negotiable. It tells him that his emotional laziness no longer has a home in your world. And that message, unspoken but undeniable, is what shakes him most. Because your distance doesn't just remove your presence, it removes his reflection of control. He realizes he can't dictate your emotions anymore. He can't use your reaction as proof of his importance. For the first time, he feels what true accountability feels like, not guilt imposed by you, but emptiness revealed by absence. That's when his truth starts to surface. Does he rise to meet you? Does he self-reflect and grow? Or does he retreat into the comfort of denial? Either way, the answer isn't yours to chase. The purpose of your emotional distance isn't to manipulate. It's to observe. It's to see who he is when you stop holding the connection together. Because love built on one person's effort will always collapse the moment that person rests. So rest, step back. Let the mirror do its work. If he truly values you, your distance will call him forward, not push him away. It will awaken a part of him that wants to meet you with effort, not entitlement. But if he fades, let him. You don't lose anything real by walking away from something hollow. Your emotional distance is not coldness, it's clarity. It's not detachment, it's dignity. You're not abandoning him, you're allowing truth to reveal itself without you forcing it. And the truth will always surface in silence. Because distance exposes the intentions words try to hide. It shows who reaches for you when comfort disappears. It separates those who love your energy from those who only loved your availability. So don't break your distance to ease his discomfort. Let it unfold. Let it speak, because emotional distance is not punishment, it's a mirror. And in that reflection, he'll either confront his truth or keep running from it. But either way, you'll have your peace. Because in choosing distance, you didn't lose him, you found yourself. And the person who learns to stay whole in silence never fears losing what can't stand the truth. Self-respect is magnetic, neediness repels. It's the invisible force that defines how others treat you without you saying a word. The world doesn't listen to your excuses or your intentions. It responds to your energy, and nothing speaks louder than the quiet confidence of someone who values themselves enough not to beg for love, attention, or approval. When you carry self-respect, you don't chase, you attract. You don't explain your worth, you embody it. People feel it in your presence, in your silence, in the way you walk away from what doesn't align with your standards. That energy pulls the right people toward you and pushes the wrong ones away. Neediness, on the other hand, is desperation disguised as devotion. It's the energy that says, please see me, please choose me, please validate me. And no matter how good your intentions are, that vibration suffocates connection, because love cannot breathe in desperation. The moment you make someone else the center of your emotional gravity, you lose your power, and with it, your magnetism. Self-respect is not arrogance, it's clarity. It's knowing who you are and what you deserve without needing constant reminders. It's not about acting superior, it's about refusing to settle. It's about understanding that real love flows freely. It doesn't have to be chased or manipulated. When you have self-respect, you stop accepting crumbs and calling them love. You stop explaining your standards as if they're demands. You stop apologizing for expecting effort. Because you finally realize your worth isn't proven by how much you tolerate. It's revealed by how quickly you walk away from what doesn't honor you. That's why self-respect is magnetic. Because it radiates strength without noise. It creates boundaries without hostility. It communicates value without begging. People who have self-respect don't need to prove they're worthy. Their actions already do that. Think about it. What draws you to someone? It's not the one who begs for attention or constantly needs reassurance. It's the one who seems centered, grounded, peaceful. The one who can love deeply but still walk away if that love becomes one-sided. That's power. That's attraction. Because independence is alluring, confidence is contagious, and peace is irresistible. Neediness, however, drains energy. It's the constant reaching, the over-texting, the worrying, the emotional overexposure. It's when love becomes pursuit rather than connection. When your happiness depends entirely on someone else's response, you lose your emotional balance, and that imbalance pushes people away. Self-respect changes the entire dynamic. When you value yourself, you don't beg for closure, you create it. You don't wait to be chosen, you choose. You don't fear rejection because your validation comes from within, not from someone else's opinion. The paradox of attraction is this: the more you cling, the further people pull away. The more you hold your ground, the more they lean in. Because emotional independence is rare, and rare things are valuable. You become magnetic not by trying to prove your worth, but by living in alignment with it. When you stop over-giving, over-explaining, and overcompensating, you create a space where others must step up or step aside. That space is your filter. It removes those who only stay because you made it easy. Self-respect says, I want you, but I don't need you. Neediness says, I need you, even if it hurts me. One creates balance, the other breeds chaos. You attract what you reflect. When you carry self-respect, you emit calm confidence. When you operate from neediness, you emit fear. And people instinctively respond to energy. The calm one becomes the anchor, the needy one becomes the storm. And here's the truth: when you respect yourself, you automatically command respect from others. You don't have to demand it, you become the example of it. People sense that they can't manipulate you, that you won't tolerate inconsistency, that your boundaries are firm. That energy earns admiration and trust. But when you operate from neediness, you unconsciously teach others that your love is negotiable, that your standards are flexible. And people will test those limits every time because no one values what's freely surrendered. Value increases when it's protected. So protect your peace, protect your worth. Don't let loneliness make you chase what respect would make you reject. The moment you stop needing others to validate your existence, you become free, and that freedom is magnetic. The irony is, the less you try to prove your value, the more it becomes obvious. People who respect themselves glow differently, they walk differently, they speak differently, their boundaries are T-walls, they're filters, they don't push people away, they attract those who are equally balanced, equally grounded, equally self-assured. Neediness will always seek comfort, self-respect will always seek alignment. One says, and I'll settle for peace even if it's temporary. The other says, I'll wait for what's real no matter how long it takes. And here's the most powerful truth: you never lose people when you stand in self-respect. You only lose the ones who never deserved access to you in the first place. So hold your head high, stop chasing love that makes you shrink, stop over-explaining your value to people who benefit from pretending they don't see it. You don't need to beg for what you naturally attract, because self-respect is the quiet fire that makes the world turn toward you. And neediness? It's the wind that blows everything good away. Stay calm, stay grounded, stay rooted in worth. Because the moment you choose respect over desperation, you stop chasing love, and love starts chasing you. Your stillness teaches him the value of what he lost. Not your anger, not your explanations, not your tears. It's your silence, the calm after the storm, that shakes him to his core. Because stillness is power. It's not weakness, it's not indifference, and it's not surrender. It's the loudest message you can ever send without saying a single word. I've accepted the truth, and I'm done fighting for what was never fighting for me. When you finally stop reacting, he realizes something has shifted. The energy that once chased, explained, and tried to fix is gone. You no longer feed his ego with your emotions, and that absence feels like withdrawal. He doesn't understand it at first. He mistakes your peace for pride, your calm for coldness. But as time passes, that stillness begins to echo in him, because before, your emotions kept him comfortable. They reminded him he still mattered. Even your frustration made him feel significant. But now, there's nothing. No messages, no questions, no energy, just silence. And that silence becomes a mirror, showing him what life feels like without your warmth, your patience, your consistency. That's the power of stillness. It shifts control. You stop being the one waiting for his recognition, and he becomes the one haunted by the absence of your energy. He begins to notice that peace you carry, that calm confidence that says, I'm not angry, I'm free. And that freedom is what he never gave you, yet what he now craves the most. You see, people often take for granted what's always available. When your energy was constantly there, he assumed it always would be, but stillness breaks that illusion. It shows him that your presence was a privilege, not a guarantee. And the moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop proving, the balance of power changes completely. Stillness is not about ignoring him. It's about reclaiming yourself. It's about understanding that closure doesn't come from conversations. It comes from clarity. And clarity often arrives in silence. When you no longer react to disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional games, you stop being predictable. You stop being controllable. You become the one thing that scares the unhealed parts of him the most, unreachable. He'll start to wonder what happened. He'll replay the last conversations in his head, looking for clues. He'll check your posts, waiting for a sign of emotion. But you've already moved differently. Your peace has become your new boundary. And that's when he starts to realize the truth. He didn't lose your attention. He lost access to your energy. The longer your stillness lasts, the more his pride begins to crumble. Pride thrives on reaction, but it starves in silence. Your lack of response forces him to sit in what he created. He feels the void he once ignored. The conversations he dismissed now echo in his mind. The moments he took lightly now weigh heavily on his heart. Because your stillness has weight. It's not passive, it's powerful. It's the moment the teacher stops talking so the student can finally think. Your stillness becomes his mirror, reflecting the truth he refused to see while you were busy explaining it. Now he has to face it alone. And that truth is simple. He lost something real. Not just your affection, but your understanding, your softness, your belief in him. And when a man loses a woman who carried him with patience and grace, the realization doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in slowly every time he meets someone who doesn't bring the same peace, every time he remembers how effortless your connection used to feel. But here's the part that matters most. You didn't become still to teach him a lesson. You became still to protect your peace. The lesson is simply the consequence. You stopped fighting for someone who didn't fight for you, and that act of self-respect became your awakening. Because stillness isn't punishment, it's transformation. It's the moment you finally understand that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. Stillness is your graduation from chaos. It's your silent statement that says, I no longer need to prove my worth through your recognition. That's where real freedom begins. And eventually, he'll come to understand that too. He'll realize your silence wasn't empty, it was full of meaning. He'll see that your absence wasn't rejection, it was reflection. That your peace wasn't indifference, it was the strength to walk away with grace instead of resentment. By the time he fully grasps it, you'll have outgrown the version of yourself that once waited for him to understand. You'll have built a life that doesn't revolve around his validation. You'll have become untouchable in the best way possible, anchored, self-assured, whole. Because stillness isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of a stronger one. It's where pain turns into power, where heartbreak turns into healing. It's where you stop chasing what drains you and start attracting what matches you. Your stillness teaches him what words never could. That peace is expensive, that love without respect is chaos, and that losing a woman who respects herself is not an accident. It's a consequence. So stay still, stay grounded. Let your calm speak for you. Because in the end, your stillness will teach him the lesson that pride never could. He didn't lose you because you stopped loving him. He lost you because you finally started loving yourself.